Hey everyone, it's May and welcome back to my channel. In these study abroad reflection videos, I'm going to be going over every aspect of my time in Paris, France with ISA, the program that I studied with, from academics to travel to housing, you name it, to hopefully give you guys a better idea about what it's like to study abroad for those of you who are interested or who are already planning to go. Please keep in mind that my experience is very unique, even with my own program, because there are just so many different options for what you can do while you're there. I hope you guys enjoy these videos and that they're helpful. Let's get into it. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about some cultural differences between America and France, as well as some stereotypes of Paris and France in general, and my take on if they're true or not. So let's get into it. So first, let's talk about the language barrier. Depending on where you study abroad, there might be a language barrier or not. And so I'd say that for me, there's like half of the language barrier because I went into this knowing a decent amount of French, but nowhere near fluent, and I'm still nowhere near fluent. Like I'd taken French for years, and so I was able to like read stuff, I could communicate if I needed to. So that wasn't like too scary, but that's definitely, you know, something to keep in mind if you were gonna go to France and didn't speak the language at all. A lot of people speak English in the cities like in Paris, but not so much in the countryside. But knowing enough French to get by really helped my confidence, but it was still, as someone who has social anxiety anyway, it was still just like that extra layer of like, oh my gosh, I have to do this in French. Like when I went to like bakeries or the grocery store or whatever, and like had to communicate, because like I hate asking people stuff anyway, and having to do it in another language was harder. And then it sucked because sometimes people could just hear from my accent that I was American, so they'd start speaking to me in English. I was like, no, I was trying here, like work with me. Yeah, it also helped that I was speaking a lot of French in my homestay because as I said in my homestay video, my host mom actually only spoke French. She didn't speak English, so I didn't have any choice but to speak French with her. My roommate was American, so we could speak English with each other, but like at meals and stuff, we would speak French with our host mom, and that sort of built up my confidence because that was like a low stakes environment where I could just like practice and talk to her. And then like at school and stuff, when it was higher stakes, I could sort of have like a foundation built. My classes were all in French, and they were like for French language learners, but they're still taught completely in French, and the teachers won't speak English to you. Like in the US, yeah, maybe your class is like taught in French, but if you need to, you can like talk to your teacher in English, like ask them about an assignment or whatever. Like in France, like they literally wouldn't do that, because even if, I don't even know if some of my teachers spoke English or not, but if they spoke to you in English, then that wouldn't be fair to the other international students if they didn't speak their language. The only time one of my professors did speak English was in my language class, like if he was saying, oh, like this is what the equivalent of this would be in your language when he was teaching us something. And that was only because most of the class was American, and the rest of the people that weren't still spoke English, except this one girl who was Japanese, and then he translated it into Japanese for her because he like spoke enough to do that. So it was still like an even playing field. But yeah, that was definitely like a different experience for me, because in the US it's like not really, like, you know, your teacher speaks English, like you can talk to them in English if you need to, but like there, like it wasn't an option. Some other cultural differences, just gonna kind of list them off. Stores close on Sunday a lot of times, or they close early. Like one time my roommate and I were gonna go to Monoprix at like 1 and it was closed on Sunday. We were like, what the heck? So it was just kind of inconvenient, but you just have to plan around it. People dress nicer a lot of the time. In the US, you can literally go to the store in your pajamas and no one will bat an eye, but like in France, everyone's very like dressed up. It's not like business casual all the time, but they wear like jeans, like nice shirts. No one really goes out of the house in sweats. So like I still did sometimes, like during finals, I just wear like yoga pants and a t-shirt to school, and then I felt like a garbage bag walking around the streets of Paris. Like, and in the US, like at college, people dress really casually, but in France, everyone dresses up for college too, at least where I went. So that was kind of weird, like having people dress nice in my classes, because usually people are just wearing like athletic clothes here. But yeah, a lot of people wear like, I guess like teens, like my age, I'm not a teen, whatever. Like young people wear like jeans, especially like gray or black jeans. Gray and black are very in there in the winter, like nice coats and like gray or black scarves, white sneakers a lot of the time. Yeah, those like Fila sneakers are very in, jean jackets, both blue and black jean skirts. Say those are the main fashions. Oh, and those plaid pants. Even my host mom, who's in her 70s, had a pair of those plaid pants that are like from H&M or whatever, and I thought about buying some and I was like, they're sort of in here too, but they're just like You know what you guys don't want to talk about, I'll insert a picture. Those were very in as well, but I sort of saw that like fall, they were like more in toward the beginning and I didn't see them as much, but I don't know. People are very quiet in the US, everyone's loud. People have loud conversations at restaurants, people have loud conversations on the street, in the gym, and wherever. But in France, people are very quiet, especially on like public transportation. You can totally spot the Americans, not even because they're speaking English, just because they're so loud in their big tourist group, and all the French people, if they're having a conversation or like talking quietly, and people don't talk on their phones very much. And if you do, it's very rude. Like that would be like considered kind of like a social faux pas when people don't do that, at least in my experience. The date is written day, month, year, and it actually wasn't that hard for me to get used to. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. So now when I like look at dates here, I'm like, wait. And it's the same thing with floors. Instead of having it be floor 1 be the ground floor 0 is the ground floor. I think it's this way through most of Europe. So now I've gotten so used to that. I was at Macy's the other day. It said level 1, like women's clothes, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, I'll go up to look at that. And I was like, no, that means this level. It's so weird. Stores are generally smaller. You don't have like super big department stores like Home Depot and like big Targets and stuff. They definitely do exist, like Monoprix, there's some big Monoprix and stuff, but like in general, there's just like little stores on the street. Dinner's later. People eat usually at 8 is the average. Since my host mom was elderly, we ate at 7, but some people eat as late as 9. I had no problem with that because I like eating dinner late anyway. Sometimes in public places you have to pay to use the bathroom, which is definitely not something we're used to here. I actually found this to be the worst in Amsterdam when I traveled there. Like literally everywhere you had to pay for the bathroom, like €1 sometimes. In Paris, that was a thing too, but not quite as bad. I think that's it for the cultural differences. And next we'll do stereotypes. So I know there's a stereotype of people in France eating baguettes all the time. I can tell you that's true. People have like a bakery down the street from them, usually like a small bakery, and they just get fresh bread. Like we had a bakery just down the street from our house. It's a thing. My roommate wrote a paper on it actually, so their bread's amazing. There's definitely a stereotype of rude Parisians. I had a lot of people ask me about that. Like, did you encounter like rude people, blah, blah, blah. And like, for the most part, I'd say that like, it's not that they're rude, it's just that they're reserved. So like in the US, we're used to walking into a store and people being like, hi, welcome to whatever store it is. How can I help you? Blah, blah, blah. And being super bubbly, and like, that's just not gonna happen. Like if you go to like an H&M or like if you're just like shopping for clothes or whatever, you have to go and ask someone if you want help. They're not gonna ask you. They're just gonna be there and like, they'll ask you how many items you have before going into the dressing room, and they'll tell you your total at the cash register. Like they're just not gonna go out of their way to help you, and they're not, from my experience, very like smiley and happy. I don't really know why that is, but I guess that's just like a cultural difference. I think that they get annoyed by tourists sometimes. So like as long as you're just polite and you say like bonjour or merci as you leave, like that goes a long way, because if you just like don't try at all to speak the language or don't try to be polite, then they'll get annoyed, I think. I think just like making a slight effort can go a long way. I truly didn't have any encounters with actual rude Parisians until the last week I was there. Like if you had asked me this before the last week, I would have been like, no, there's none. But in the last week I was there, we had an encounter with a super rude employee at Odette, which was a bakery, and then a super rude employee at the karaoke bar we were going to. So I think that's probably just like flukes. I mean, every place you're gonna go has rude people lurking around somewhere. I'm not gonna base Paris off of that. It was probably just a fluke because we had had good experiences at those places before. So it was probably just like a one-time thing. Like I said, like everywhere has rude people. Paris has got rude people. Just for the most part, be polite. And then lastly, I want to talk about pickpocketing. Definitely a real thing. I know people think of that when they think of Europe, and like it's because it happens. It happened to 2 of my friends, one in Paris, one in Barcelona, and all I can tell you guys is like, it can happen to you. The tips I would give to avoid it, I mean, it didn't happen to me, so like, it's definitely a combination of luck and like, just being smart. Do not have an open bag. Like a tote bag that's just like open is a terrible idea because someone can just reach in and take something out. When you have a backpack or your purse, have your backpack slung over your front with your hand over it. I just had the crossbody bag for most of my time there. It like went over and snapped, and I would hold it. I would have my hand over it, or I'd like have it on my lap when I was on the metro, because public transportation is where it happens the most. And then when I had my backpack for school, I would either just like wear it on my front or have it like slung over my front most of the time, or just like have it on my lap when I was sitting down. And like, don't just have it on your lap, like have your arm through a strap, because how it happened to one of my friends was someone grabbed her purse off her lap and ran out the doors just as they were closing. And if you're gonna have your phone out or whatever, be really careful when the doors are closing, because that's when it's gonna happen, because they can make a quick getaway and you can't go after them because then the train's moving and it just happens so fast. And just be careful of people being too close to you, because that's how it happened to my other friend in Barcelona when we were on the bus. Like afterwards she said, yeah, there was this old lady that was like super close to me, but I didn't really think anything of it, and her wallet was gone when they got off. And she was so mad about that, 'cause she's like, I could have taken her. Like it wasn't even some guy, like it was totally someone she could have gotten it from. And then, so I'd say like be careful, especially in metros and like touristy crowded places like the Eiffel Tower or the Louvre, because that's another target, because they know that people are gonna be like, oh, like looking at the sights and like not really paying attention. So just keep your hands on your valuables at all times, because it's definitely something that can happen and you don't want that to ruin your trip. And don't have your passport out, because that would really suck. Luckily that didn't happen to anyone, but like especially when you're studying abroad, do not have your passport with you if you don't need it. Like have a copy of your passport and your visa, but do not take it with you, because that would suck to have that stolen. That would be just like such a hassle. Those are my takes on cultural differences and stereotypes from my semester abroad. I hope this video is helpful if you guys are looking to go to Paris. And yeah, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.